The grand chamber aboard the hegemony flagship, Dominion, gleamed with polished obsidian and chromium. Massive viewport windows revealed the gas giant Jupiter, its swirling storms, a muted backdrop to the historical proceedings about to unfold. Commander Vex Lord Tornik stood tall, his scaled skin reflecting the ambient light, as he surveyed the gathered delegation with barely concealed disdain. "The humans approach," announced a subordinate voice echoing through the cavernous space. Tornik's mandibles clicked twice in acknowledgement. 50 years of observing this peculiar species had taught the hegemony much, but not enough in his estimation. The humans had expanded rapidly through their solar system after discovering quantum fold technology, yet their military capabilities remained primitive compared to the vast hegemony forces that had conquered 17 intelligent species across 3 galactic arms. "Remember," Tornik addressed his officers in the guttural hegemony language, "this treaty is merely formality. The Council's directives remain unchanged. Operation Trojan Horse proceeds regardless of what papers these creatures sign." Ambassador Diana Reeves led the human delegation into the chamber, her posture straight and dignified, despite being nearly 2 feet shorter than the hegemony commander. Admiral Jackson Parker walked slightly behind her, his decorated uniform stark against the minimalist hegemony aesthetics. The advisory team, Thomas Whitfield, security specialist, Lakshmi Patel, quantum physicist, and Dr. Marcus Fleming, xenolinguist, followed in formation. "Commander Tornik," Diana's voice carried clearly across the chamber. "Earth extends its gratitude for this opportunity to formalize relations between our civilizations." The hegemony commander inclined his head slightly. "The hegemony welcomes Earth to the galactic community. This treaty will ensure peaceful coexistence." From the sidelines, Ambassador Krendel of the Pluridian Confederation observed with hopeful eyes. His species had been one of the first to sign treaties with the hegemony generations ago, and he genuinely believed that humanity would benefit from hegemony protection. This marks a new era of cooperation. Krendel offered his translucent skin pulsing with blue light, a sign of optimism in Pluridian physiology. Diana smiled warmly at Krendel before turning back to Tornik. "Indeed. We've prepared a ceremonial gift as is Earth custom when forging new alliances." At her gesture, Whitfield stepped forward, carrying a sphere roughly the size of a basketball. It appeared to be made of glass, within which swirled miniature representations of Earth's biosphere, tiny clouds, microscopic oceans, and swirling atmospheric patterns. "A model of Earth," Diana explained. "We call it Gaia's heart, a symbol of our openness and transparency." Tornik's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. The gift was unexpected, though hardly concerning. Hegemony protocol dictated all foreign objects be scanned, but preliminary readings showed nothing dangerous, merely water atmospheric gases and simple Earth minerals. "Most thoughtful," Tornik replied, signaling to an aide who took the sphere and placed it on a pedestal near the treaty table. Admiral Parker caught the commander's hesitation and exchanged a brief glance with Diana. They had anticipated this reaction. "Shall we proceed with the formalities?" Diana asked, gesturing toward the large holographic display where the treaty text hovered in multiple languages. As they moved toward the treaty table, something unusual happened. The lighting throughout the chamber flickered momentarily. Several hegemony officers glanced at their diagnostic panels, their expressions betraying mild confusion. A simple power fluctuation. Tornik dismissed, though a shadow of concern crossed his features. The Dominion's systems were never unstable. "Of course," Diana nodded understandingly. "Complex vessels like yours must require enormous energy management." The treaty ceremony began with representatives from both sides approaching the holographic document. Krendel moved closer, genuinely pleased to witness what he believed was another species finding safety within the hegemony's fold. As Diana raised her hand to place her palm against the authentication scanner, the hegemony gift, Gaia's heart, began to emit a soft, pulsing glow. The light intensified gradually, though so subtly that the hegemony officers focused on the treaty failed to notice immediately. Tornik was the first to sense something amiss. He turned sharply toward the sphere, just as it released a silent pulse of blue-white energy that rippled through the chamber like a ghostly wave. Every hegemony system, from personal communicators to the ship's main controls, froze simultaneously. The holographic treaty display stuttered and revealed a completely different document than what had been previously displayed. Tornik lunged toward his sidearm, but found himself moving with inexplicable sluggishness, as though caught in invisible syrup. Around him, his officers experienced the same phenomenon, able to move, but at a fraction of their normal speed. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, his voice emerging slower than intended. Diana Reeves straightened her diplomatic demeanor, transforming into something altogether more commanding. "Commander Tornik, perhaps you should read the actual treaty terms now displayed before you." The new document was titled Terms of Hegemony Surrender and Galactic Reorganization. "This is outrageous," Tornik growled, fighting against the temporal distortion affecting him and his crew. "You dare—" "We dare," Admiral Parker interjected, stepping forward, "because we know everything. Operation Trojan Horse, the planned subjugation of Earth, the secret military installations in 57 star systems surrounding human space, your council's directive to eliminate our species once we'd signed your false treaty." Krendel gasped, his skin flashing alarmed crimson. "What is he saying?" Diana turned to the Pluridian with genuine sympathy. "Ambassador Krendel, the hegemony has been lying to you and every other species under their protection. They've been systematically exploiting resources, restricting technological development, and eliminating any civilization that shows too much independence." "Impossible," Krendel whispered, though uncertainty clouded his features. "Show him," Diana instructed. Dr. Marcus Fleming activated a small device on his wrist. Immediately, holographic projections materialized throughout the chamber, intercepted communications between Tornik and the Hegemony High Council, detailed plans for Earth's eventual resource extraction, and guidelines for population control through implanted devices, disguised as medical treatments. "For 50 years, Fleming explained, we've been listening to every transmission you've made. Your encryption was impressive, but ultimately insufficient." Lakshmi Patel stepped forward. "What you're experiencing now is a phase shift, Field Commander. It selectively targets hegemony neural patterns and technology, reducing your reaction time to 1/10 normal speed. We've been developing it ever since we detected your scout ships in our system 53 years ago." Tornik's eyes blazed with fury and dawning comprehension. "Impossible. Our presence was undetectable." "Not to quantum entanglement scanners," Patel replied. "Technology you believed was centuries beyond our capabilities." Admiral Parker circled the table slowly. "While you watched us and believed we were oblivious, we were watching you. We've mapped every one of your 57 hidden military bases surrounding our space. We've cataloged your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses. And now," Diana continued, "we've neutralized your fleet. Not just here at Jupiter, Commander, everywhere." A new hologram appeared, showing hegemony vessels throughout the explored galaxy, suddenly becoming inert, floating dead in space, as the same energy wave that had swept through the Dominion reached them through quantum entanglement. "Your entire military infrastructure has been compromised," Whitfield added. "We could destroy it all with a single command if we wished." Krendel moved away from the hegemony delegation, his eyes wide with shock. "All these years, the restrictions on Pluridian research, the protective outposts in our system, they were never for our safety." "I'm afraid not, Ambassador," Diana said gently. "The hegemony has been systematically preventing technological advancement among all its protected species to ensure none would ever challenge their dominance." Tornik fought against the phase shift effect, his movements still unnaturally slow. "You cannot possibly expect the High Council to accept these terms. The hegemony does not surrender." "They will," Admiral Parker stated flatly, Because the alternative is the complete deactivation of your civilization's technological infrastructure. We've infiltrated your system so thoroughly that we could send every hegemony world back to a pre-industrial state with a single command. Diana stepped closer to Tornik, meeting his gaze steadily. We don't want to destroy you, Commander. Unlike the hegemony, humanity doesn't believe in subjugation or extinction. We believe in freedom for ourselves and for every species currently under your control. What are your demands? Tornik asked, voice tight with suppressed rage. Not demands, terms, Diana corrected. First, immediate autonomy for all 57 star systems surrounding Earth space. Second, the dismantling of all hegemony military installations in those systems. Third, the establishment of a new galactic council, with equal representation from all intelligent species, including those currently under hegemony control. Fourth, Admiral Parker continued, full technological exchange. No more hoarding of advancements or artificial restrictions on development. And finally, Diana concluded, a complete restructuring of the hegemony government with democratic elections and constitutional protections for all citizens, including non-hegemony species. Tornik's laugh was bitter, even through the phase shift distortion. You expect us to simply vote ourselves out of power, surrender our rightful dominance. I expect you to adapt, Diana replied, or become irrelevant. The choice is yours, but it must be made now. A communication alert chimed, and a holographic projection of the Hegemony High Council appeared in the center of the chamber. 7 aged hegemony elders regarded the scene with a mixture of shock and outrage. What is the meaning of this? Demanded the central figure, High Counselor Zexron. Commander Tornik explained this disruption immediately. The humans, Tornik began struggling against the phase shift, have somehow disabled our systems and are attempting to dictate terms. Not attempting, Diana interrupted, stepping into view of the council. We are dictating terms. Your fleets are neutralized. Your hidden bases are exposed. Your encryption is broken. The era of hegemony dominance has ended. She gestured, and new holograms appeared displaying hegemony secret installations, weapons caches, and even the private chambers of the council members themselves. Impossible, whispered one of the counselors. And yet evidently true, Diana replied. You have 1 standard hour to agree to our terms, or we will be forced to permanently disable all hegemony technology throughout the galaxy. This is blackmail, Zexron snarled. This is consequence, Admiral Parker corrected. For centuries you've manipulated, subjugated, and exploited other species. You've prevented technological advancement that might challenge your power. You've eliminated those who refuse to bend to your will. Now you face a species that anticipated your treachery and prepared accordingly. Lakshmi Patel stepped forward. High Council, I am transmitting technical specifications that will prove we can fulfill our threat. Your scientists will confirm that we have infiltrated your quantum networks at the most fundamental level. The counselors conferred briefly before Zexron addressed Diana again. What assurances do we have that you won't simply replace the hegemony with human dominance? A fair question, Diana acknowledged. That's why we're not proposing human leadership, but rather a true galactic council with equal representation. Furthermore, all species, including yours, will have complete access to the technology we've developed. No more secrets, no more technological disparities. And if we refuse, another counselor asked. Whitfield touched a control on his wrist device, and a small demonstration appeared, a hegemony cruiser in distant space, suddenly powering down completely its lights, extinguishing as it drifted dead in the void. That vessel can be reactivated, he explained. But we could just as easily make the effect permanent, and we could apply it to every piece of hegemony technology simultaneously. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You have 1 hour, Diana reiterated. Choose wisely. As the council's hologram flickered out, Krendel approached Diana, his skin now pulsing with a mixture of colors, reflecting his tumultuous emotions. If what you say is true, the Pluridian ambassador said. Then my people have been living under an illusion of protection, while actually being prisoners. I'm afraid so, Diana replied gently. But that can change. All species deserve self-determination. Tornik, still affected by the phase shift, regarded the humans with newfound wariness. You've been planning this for 50 years. Since we detected your first scout ships, yes, Admiral Parker confirmed. We knew from your transmissions that you considered us primitive and potentially dangerous. We decided to appear exactly as you expected, technologically enthusiastic, but militarily limited, while actually developing capabilities far beyond what you could imagine, Diana added. We learned from Earth's history. When technologically advanced civilizations encounter less advanced ones, the results are rarely beneficial for the latter. We refuse to be conquered or colonized. So you deceived us, Tornik said bitterly. We protected ourselves from your deception, Diana corrected. There's a difference. The hour passed in tense silence. When the High Council's hologram reappeared, their demeanor had changed significantly. Gone was the outrage, replaced by grim resignation. We have reviewed your capabilities, Zexron stated. Our scientists confirm that you could indeed fulfill your threat. The hegemony accepts your terms. Diana nodded solemnly. A wise decision, High Counselor. Transition protocols will begin immediately. Ambassador Krendel will be the first non-human, non-hegemony representative to the new Galactic Council, if he accepts. Krendel's skin pulsed with surprise, then settled into a determined blue. I would be honored to help build a more equitable galactic community. Commander Tornik. Admiral Parker addressed the hegemony officer. You and your crew have a choice. You may return to hegemony space, or you may remain here as observers during the transition. Either way, your vessel will remain under our phase shift control until the new accords are fully implemented. Tornik studied the human admiral with a mixture of anger and reluctant respect. I will remain. The High Council will need accurate reports of the changing situation. Very well, Diana agreed. Now let us begin drafting the true treaty, one built on honest terms, rather than hidden agendas. As the formal proceedings began anew, Dr. Marcus Fleming approached Diana quietly. They're cooperating now, but resentment will linger. The hegemony has never known anything but dominance. True, Diana acknowledged, but they'll adapt or fade into irrelevance. Either way, the galaxy will be better for it. And humanity, Fleming asked. We've just made ourselves known as the species that brought down the hegemony. There will be those who fear us now. Then we must prove ourselves worthy of trust, Diana replied. By using our power to liberate rather than control. By sharing knowledge rather than hoarding it. By building rather than destroying. As the new treaty took shape, Admiral Parker stood at the viewport gazing out at Jupiter's swirling storms. Whitfield joined him, following his gaze. Beautiful, isn't it? Parker mused. A gas giant that could have swallowed Earth thousands of times over. Yet, for all its size, it never became a star. Never achieved its full potential. Poetic way to describe the hegemony, Whitfield observed. Parker smiled slightly. I was thinking more about what happens next. 57 star systems suddenly free of hegemony control. 17 species discovering they've been manipulated for centuries. It's going to be chaotic. Better chaotic and free than orderly and enslaved, Whitfield replied. Agreed. But freedom requires vigilance. The hegemony won't simply accept their new reality without resistance. That's why we're keeping their ships phase-locked until the transition is complete, Whitfield reminded him. And why we're sharing our technology with everyone, not just our allies. No more technological disparities means no more easy conquests. Admiral Parker nodded thoughtfully. In Earth's history, the most stable periods were those with balanced power among nations. Perhaps the same will hold true among the stars. At the treaty table, Diana was explaining the new terms to Commander Tornik and the Pluridian ambassador. The hegemony officer listened with thinly veiled resentment, while Krendel absorbed every word with growing excitement. These terms will be transmitted to every world currently under hegemony influence, Diana explained. Within days, the entire galactic power structure will change. And if there is resistance, Tornik asked, not all hegemony commanders will accept this revolution quietly. Then, they will find their technology failing them at critical moments, Diana replied evenly. We don't wish to destroy anyone, Commander, but we will not permit the continued subjugation of innocent species. You speak of freedom, Tornik said, yet you threaten those who disagree with technological annihilation. How is that different from hegemony methods? Diana considered this. A fair question. The difference is in our intent and our endpoint. We seek to create a galaxy where such threats are unnecessary, where no species holds such power over others that they can dictate terms, including humans. Noble words, Tornik replied skeptically. Words backed by action, Diana countered. Once the new Galactic Council is established, the phase shift technology will be shared with all member species. No one, not even humanity, will be able to use it unilaterally again. This gave Tornik pause. You would surrender such an advantage. It's not an advantage if everyone possesses it, Lakshmi Patel interjected. It becomes a deterrent against anyone seeking dominance, including future human governments, who might forget today's ideals. As the discussions continued, Dr. Fleming was analyzing hegemony historical records that had been accessed through their compromised systems. He approached Diana with a troubled expression. Ambassador, I found something concerning, he said quietly. The hegemony didn't develop independently. They were uplifted by another species, one that disappeared mysteriously about 3 centuries ago. Diana frowned. Uplifted and then eliminated when they became too advanced. The records are unclear, but that's my suspicion, Fleming confirmed. It suggests a pattern that precedes even the hegemony. There may be other forces at work in the galaxy that we haven't encountered yet. All the more reason to build a united galactic community, Diana replied, after a moment's thought. We're stronger together than divided. The negotiations continued through what would have been night on Earth. New communication channels were established with other species under hegemony control, many of whom reacted with initial disbelief, then cautious hope as the evidence was presented. The Pluridians, under Krendel's passionate advocacy, were among the first to fully embrace the new paradigm. Their scientists immediately began collaborating with Lakshmi Patel on applications of quantum entanglement technology that had been forbidden under hegemony rule. Commander Tornik watched these developments with increasing resignation. His initial fury had given way to a grim acceptance, though his pride remained wounded. You realize, he said to Admiral Parker during a brief recess, that you have not only defeated the hegemony, but humiliated us in the process. Such humiliation breeds resentment that may last generations. Parker considered this. Perhaps, but we offered you a choice: adapt or become irrelevant. Adaptation may be painful for the hegemony, but it leads to survival. Clinging to past glory leads to extinction. You speak as though you've witnessed such transitions, Tornik observed. Earth history is filled with empires that rose and fell, Parker replied. Those that adapted to changing times survived in new forms. Those that refused change vanished entirely. And what role do you envision for the hegemony in this new galaxy you're creating? Parker met the commander's gaze directly. That depends entirely on you and your people. You have knowledge, experience, and capabilities that could benefit everyone, if shared rather than imposed. The hegemony could become valued contributors rather than feared conquerors. Tornik fell silent, contemplating these words. As the new day cycle began aboard the Dominion, the framework of the new galactic order was taking shape. Representatives from 12 species had joined the discussions, virtually each bringing perspectives and concerns that complicated the negotiations, but ultimately strengthened the resulting agreements. Diana, though exhausted, felt a profound sense of accomplishment as she watched former adversaries beginning to collaborate on mutual challenges. The hegemony representatives remained aloof, but they were participating, a start if nothing else. You should rest, Dr. Fleming advised her, offering a stimulant patch that would help her remain alert for the continuing talks. Soon, Diana promised, accepting the patch gratefully. We're reaching the most critical phase, establishing the governance structure that will replace hegemony control. If we get this wrong, we merely exchange one flawed system for another. Fleming nodded understanding. The proposed council seems promising equal representation regardless of technological development or military strength. Equal voice, yes, Diana clarified. But implementation will be challenging. Some species have been under hegemony control for so long, they've forgotten how to self-govern. Others have resistance movements that may seek retribution, rather than reconciliation. Like Earth might have if the hegemony had succeeded in its plans for us, Fleming observed. Exactly. Bitterness and resentment are powerful forces. We need to acknowledge them while channeling energy toward construction rather than retribution. Across the chamber, Lakshmi Patel was demonstrating quantum entanglement principles to a fascinated group of Pluridian and Nelvarian scientists, the latter being a species known for mathematical brilliance, but whose technological development had been severely restricted by hegemony decree. The applications extend far beyond communications, Patel was explaining. Instant transportation of matter remains theoretical, but energy transfer across vast distances is already achievable. Such technology would have transformed our energy crisis decades ago. One Nelvarian scientist remarked, his feathered crest rising in excitement. That was precisely why the hegemony restricted it, Patel replied gently. But those restrictions end today. Admiral Parker, meanwhile, was conducting detailed briefings with military representatives from various species, explaining how Earth had developed its defensive capabilities in secret, while presenting a less threatening facade to hegemony observers. The key was compartmentalization, he explained. Our public space force used conventional drives and weapon systems, while our actual defensive capabilities were developed in isolated facilities throughout the asteroid belt, shielded from detection. And your leaders maintained this deception for 50 years, asked a Carillion commander, her crystalline features expressing admiration. Without leaks or betrayal? Not without difficulty, Parker admitted. But the stakes were existential. Every person involved understood that the survival of our species depended on absolute secrecy. As these exchanges continued throughout the hegemony vessel, Commander Tornik received a private communication from the High Council. He retreated to a secluded area to receive it, though he harbored no illusions that the humans weren't monitoring every transmission. Commander, High Counselor Zex Ron addressed him. The situation continues to deteriorate. 17 colony worlds have already declared independence from hegemony authority. Our military vessels remain under human control across all sectors. The humans' capabilities exceeded our intelligence estimates by several orders of magnitude, Tornik reported. Their quantum technology in particular. We are aware, the counselor interrupted irritably. The question now is whether any opportunity remains to salvage hegemony authority. Tornik considered carefully. I believe not, counselor. Their infiltration of our systems appears total. More importantly, they are already sharing their advancements with other species. Even if we somehow regained control of our technology, we would face not just humans, but potentially dozens of equally advanced civilizations. The counselor's expression darkened. Then you advocate surrender, accepting this democratic council they propose? I advocate adaptation, Tornik replied, deliberately echoing Admiral Parker's words. The hegemony can either evolve into something new or face extinction. Those appear to be our only options. The council is divided on this matter, Zexaron admitted after a moment. Some advocate for a strategy of apparent compliance, while secretly rebuilding our capabilities. With respect, Counselor, such a strategy seems doomed to failure. The humans' monitoring capabilities appear to extend to our most secure facilities. I suspect they would detect any such effort immediately. The counselor was silent for a long moment. Your assessment is, unfortunately, consistent with our technical analysis. Very well. Continue observation and participate in these negotiations, The Council will deliberate on our long-term response." When the transmission ended, Tornik found Diana Reeves waiting nearby, making no pretense that she hadn't been aware of the communication. "Your council faces difficult decisions," she remarked. Tornik didn't bother denying it. As would any government facing such a fundamental challenge to its authority and identity. "Change is rarely comfortable," Diana acknowledged, "particularly for those accustomed to power." "You speak as though humans would respond differently in our position," Tornik observed. "Some wouldn't," Diana admitted. "Human history is filled with powers that clutched their advantages until they were forcibly removed. But others recognized when an old order was ending and helped shape what replaced it, securing a place of influence in the new paradigm." "And which approach do you recommend for the hegemony?" Tornik asked, a hint of sardonic humor in his voice. "I think you already know the answer to that, Commander," Diana replied. "The question is whether your council has the wisdom to see it as well." As days passed, the transformation of galactic politics accelerated. News of the hegemony's effective surrender spread rapidly through quantum networks, triggering celebrations on some worlds and chaos on others, where hegemony loyalists clashed with independence movements. The human delegation worked tirelessly, mediating disputes and helping establish transitional governments where needed. They were careful to present themselves as facilitators rather than new rulers, consistently deferring to local leaders and emphasizing self-determination. Admiral Parker coordinated with Earth's defense forces as they moved to secure critical infrastructure throughout former hegemony space, always partnering with local authorities rather than imposing control. "The optics matter as much as the reality," he explained to his officers. "We're not replacing one empire with another. We're helping birth a community of equals." Diana's diplomatic skills were tested as she balanced competing interests and historical grievances among species that had suffered under hegemony rule. Some demanded reparations. Others called for trials of hegemony officials who had enforced particularly brutal policies. "Justice is essential," she acknowledged during one particularly heated session. "But vendetta masquerading as justice only perpetuates cycles of violence. We must focus on building safeguards that prevent such abuses in the future, while helping all societies, including the hegemony, transition to more equitable structures." Throughout these deliberations, the Gaia's heart sphere remained on its pedestal in the chamber, its gentle glow a constant reminder of how thoroughly humanity had outmaneuvered the once mighty hegemony. Lakshmi Patel spent hours each day examining hegemony technology, comparing it with Earth's developments. Their approach to quantum mechanics followed a completely different theoretical framework, she reported to Diana. Less efficient in some ways, more advanced in others. The exchange of these differing perspectives will accelerate progress for everyone. Dr. Fleming, meanwhile, had become the de facto historian of the transition, documenting the rapidly changing power dynamics and cultural exchanges occurring throughout former hegemony space. "We're witnessing the birth of a new galactic civilization," he observed during one briefing. "Not human-dominated or hegemony-dominated, but genuinely pluralistic. There's no historical precedent for such a transition occurring so rapidly and thus far with relatively little bloodshed. The threat of technological paralysis is a powerful motivator," Thomas Whitfield noted dryly. "Hard to fight when your weapons don't work." "True," Fleming acknowledged. "But I'm particularly interested in how quickly new alliances are forming species that were previously isolated from each other under hegemony policy, are discovering shared interests and complementary abilities." On the 12th day of negotiations, a formal ceremony was held to establish the new Galactic Council. Representatives from 28 species gathered in the chamber, with hundreds more participating via holographic projection. Diana Reeves and Commander Tornik stood side by side as the final treaty was presented for ratification, a stark contrast from the deceptive ceremony that had been planned just days earlier. "Today marks not an ending, but a beginning," Diana addressed the assembly. "Not the dominance of any single species, but the collaboration of many. Not peace imposed through force, but cooperation arising from mutual respect. She turned to Tornik. "Commander, would you like to address the assembly?" The hegemony officer stepped forward, his demeanor composed, despite the humbling circumstances. For centuries, the hegemony believed that order could only be maintained through control. He began. "We saw diversity as chaos, independence as threat. Today, we are confronted with evidence that we were wrong, that strength can arise from difference, that security can emerge from freedom, rather than from its suppression." He paused, surveying the gathered representatives. "The transition will not be easy, not for the hegemony, which must remake itself, nor for those long under our control, who must now govern themselves. But if recent days have taught us anything, it is that adaptation is possible, even when it seems impossible." As the treaty was formally ratified, the phase shift field that had kept hegemony technology in check gradually dissipated. Aboard the Dominion systems returned to normal operation, symbolizing the trust, however tentative, that was beginning to form. "A calculated risk," Admiral Parker murmured to Diana as they observed the transition. "A necessary one," she replied. "Trust must begin somewhere." The ceremony concluded with the establishment of the Council's headquarters on a neutral world, a planet that had never been colonized by any of the member species, to be developed collectively as a symbol of their new unity. As delegates began to disperse, returning to their worlds to implement the sweeping changes, Krendel approached Diana, with his skin glowing a warm orange of gratitude. "My people lived in a gilded cage for generations without realizing it," the Pluridian ambassador said. "You've given us more than freedom, you've given us possibility." "You always had both," Diana replied gently. "They were simply hidden from you." "Nevertheless, we are grateful," Krendel hesitated. "Some among us fear that humans will eventually become what the hegemony was, that your technological advantages will prove too tempting." "A reasonable concern," Diana acknowledged. "Power always carries that temptation. That's why we insisted on sharing our advancements with everyone, and why we've built checks and balances into the council structure. No species, including humans, should wield disproportionate power." "Even so, it will take time to fully trust," Krendel admitted. "As it should. Trust is earned through actions, not declarations." As the Pluridian ambassador departed, Commander Tornik approached Diana, his expression thoughtful. "Your strategy was impressive," he conceded. 50 years of deception culminating in a complete reversal of galactic power structures. Few military campaigns in hegemony history have been executed with such precision. "Thank you, Commander. Though I'd characterize it as 50 years of preparation rather than deception. We simply kept our capabilities private while observing yours." "A distinction without meaningful difference," Tornik replied, though without rancor. "What happens to me and my crew now? That's your choice," Diana said. "You may return to hegemony space to assist with the transition there, or you may accept positions as hegemony representatives to the new council. Either way, your knowledge and experience remain valuable." Tornik studied her for a long moment. "You truly believe this new arrangement can succeed, that species with vastly different biologies, psychologies, and histories can govern collectively?" "I believe it's our best hope," Diana replied honestly. "The alternative is endless cycles of dominance and resistance with technology, making each cycle more destructive than the last." "A pragmatic view," Tornik observed. "Not the idealism I expected." "Idealism sets our destination," Diana said. "Pragmatism helps us navigate the journey." The commander nodded thoughtfully. "I will return to hegemony space. Our people will need guidance during this transition." "A wise decision," Diana acknowledged. "The hegemony's experience in interstellar governance will be invaluable in the new council once reformed to respect autonomy rather than suppress it." As preparations began for the human delegation's return to Earth, Admiral Parker found Diana in the observation lounge, gazing out at Jupiter's swirling storms. "We've already received 17 requests for diplomatic missions to Earth," he reported. "Species that had never heard of us 2 weeks ago now seek alliances." "And how many threats?" Diana asked, still looking outward. 3 thus far. Splinter factions of hegemony loyalists who believe we've destroyed their rightful dominance. Nothing our defense forces can't handle. Diana nodded absently. We knew there would be resistance. Change of this magnitude doesn't occur without friction. True, but the broader reaction has been remarkably positive. Fleming's cultural analysis suggests most species are embracing the new possibilities, rather than mourning hegemony, protection. After centuries of suppression, that's hardly surprising, Diana replied. The question is whether we can build something sustainable in the power vacuum we've created. Admiral Parker joined her at the viewport. Having doubts? Concerns, not doubts, Diana clarified. We planned for this moment for 50 years, but what comes next will be far less predictable. New alliances will form, new conflicts will emerge, and humanity will be viewed with both gratitude and suspicion, liberators today, potential oppressors tomorrow. Such is the burden of power, Parker observed. A burden we must be careful not to embrace too comfortably, Diana cautioned. History is filled with liberators who became the very thing they opposed. Which is why we're establishing the Council now, while idealism runs high, Parker reminded her. Institutionalizing constraints on power before self-interest reasserts itself. Let's hope it's enough, Diana said quietly. As the Earth delegation prepared to depart, they gathered for a final meeting to assess the transition's progress. Lakshmi Patel presented her analysis of technology transfers occurring throughout former hegemony space. The exchange is accelerating beyond our projections, she reported. Species are combining hegemony techniques with their own unique approaches, leading to innovations we hadn't anticipated. The Nelvarans have already developed an enhanced version of our quantum communication system by integrating it with their crystalline computing architecture. Any concerning applications? Whitfield asked. None detected thus far, Patel replied. The focus appears to be on infrastructure medicine and environmental restoration, rather than weapons development. Though that may change as the initial euphoria fades. Dr. Fleming shared his cultural assessment next. We're seeing extremely diverse responses across different societies. Some are embracing radical change, discarding hegemony-imposed restrictions entirely. Others are proceeding more cautiously, concerned about destabilization. Both approaches have merit, Diana noted. Revolution and evolution each have their place depending on local circumstances. The most interesting development, Fleming continued, has been the emergence of cross-species cultural exchanges. Art forms, philosophies, and social practices that were previously isolated are now being shared widely. It's creating a ferment of ideas unlike anything we've seen in Earth history. As the briefing concluded, Diana addressed the team one final time before their departure. What we've accomplished here was only possible because we prepared meticulously and acted decisively, she said. But what comes next requires something different: restraint, patience, and wisdom. We've helped set a new course for galactic civilization. Now we must ensure that humanity remains worthy of the trust being placed in us. The journey back to Earth was relatively quiet, with each member of the delegation processing the momentous events they had witnessed. The phase shift technology that had neutralized the hegemony fleet was being systematically shared with all Council members, ensuring that no single species could use it unilaterally in the future. As Earth came into view, a blue marble suspended in the void, Diana reflected on how close their world had come to subjugation. Had the hegemony discovered humanity's secret preparations, had they attacked earlier than planned, history might have taken a very different course. It's strange, she remarked to Admiral Parker as they prepared for atmospheric entry. For 50 years, a small group of humans carried the secret knowledge that our species was targeted for eventual conquest. We built our defenses, developed our technologies, and planned our response, all while maintaining a facade of naive enthusiasm to the hegemony observers. The greatest deception in human history, Parker agreed, and one that will remain classified for generations to come. Not deception, Diana corrected with a small smile. Strategic transparency. We showed the hegemony exactly what we wanted them to see. While seeing everything they tried to hide, Parker completed the thought. Below them, Earth's continents began to take shape, the unified world that had come together in secret to defend itself from an existential threat. Nations that had once been adversaries had pooled resources and knowledge, recognizing that division in the face of the hegemony would mean certain defeat. Do you think we can maintain that unity now that the immediate threat has passed? Diana wondered aloud. History suggests otherwise, Parker admitted. Common enemies unite. Prosperity often divides. Then, perhaps we need to focus humanity's attention on common challenges rather than common enemies, Diana suggested. The galactic community we're helping to build will need Earth's continued leadership not through dominance, but through example. As their vessel entered Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Parker studied the planet below with newfound appreciation. 50 years ago, we were alone and vulnerable, unaware of the threat gathering beyond our solar system. Today, we stand at the center of a transforming galaxy, having turned a planned conquest into an opportunity for unprecedented cooperation. Freedom must be earned and then preserved, Diana quoted from the briefing she had given before the confrontation with Tornik. We earned ours through vigilance and preparation. Now, we must help preserve it for all species through wisdom and restraint. The ship descended toward the landing facility outside the United Earth Government headquarters in Geneva. Below, a small gathering awaited them. Not a public celebration. The full story of their mission remained classified, but a private welcome from those who had helped orchestrate humanity's greatest strategic victory. "Ready, Ambassador?" Admiral Parker asked, as they prepared to disembark. Diana Reeves nodded, straightening her diplomatic insignia. "Ready for whatever comes next. The peace treaty was a lie, but the peace we're building now, that can be real." Together, they stepped forward to face a galaxy forever changed by humanity's refusal to be conquered and its determination to build something better than what had come before.